why don't you cock yourself? Sell your vote, you don't sell your future, but that sell your birthright. How much self? Divide them by 4 years. How much with that?
NinjaFlavor.com.
No sell your vote, oh. No matter the thing them they tell you. No matter.
Online educative program that is supported by the National Endowment for Democracy and Yada Africa. My name is Yvonne Blessing, and today we'll be discussing the impact of the ASUU strike on student voters turnout in the 2023 general elections. And with me here in the studio is Honorable Justice Abida Israel, is the Chief Justice of the ASUU Supreme Court, University of Benin. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you, Blessing.
It's a pleasure having you.
Pleasure to be here.
So, like we know it, the Academic Staff Union of Nigeria workers have been on strike for the past 8 months, and it has left students and young persons who are supposed to be learning and furthering their development in schools left hanging at home, most of which have turned into elements that one cannot understand, and a lot of things have been going on. And so, Honorable Ishtra, do you see it as something that will drive on patriotism during the next coming elections? Would students actually turn out to vote?
Thank you for the question, Blessing. First and foremost, for the benefit of online viewers, and then to those who may be also interested in this program, it is pertinent first and foremost to define strike itself. Okay, strike on the authority of the Longman Dictionary of Contemporary English. Strike is defined as a period of time when a group of workers deliberately stop working because of a disagreement about pay, working conditionalities. And then this is the situation in which Nigerian students are right now. We've been on strike, they've been on our hold because of ASUU strike. And so I feel everything boils down to bad leadership. Okay, and the 2023 general election offers the students and indeed Nigerians the ample opportunity to go to the ballot box and then to be able to express their will in the ballot. And so, given the fact that Nigerian students have been caught up under the web of bad leadership, which has been expressed through the ASUU strike, I think the ASUU strike is really going to ignite that spirit of patriotism and spirit of participation in the minds of the students. They want to participate, knowing fully that they've had a fair share of the effect of bad leadership. Thank you.
Yeah, that's now. So you say that this is something that will drive students' participation. So do you see that this strike was even an opportunity for them to actively participate in the process of getting their voters card? Because considering the queue and everything that they had to go through, if they had classes, it would have been clashing with the classes. So do you see that this also is kind of like a win-win for the students?
I wouldn't say it's a win-win. I'd rather say that the sense in which it is a blessing in disguise. Blessing in disguise to the extent that if not for the ASUU strike, so many of the students would have had the preview of registering, in the recently completed voter registration exercise. So to that extent, I feel it was a blessing in disguise for them because the ASUU strike made so many of them, indolent, made so many of them lazy, made so many of them out of classroom. So they use that opportunity to register, just voter registration exercise. So to that extent, I feel it was a blessing in disguise.
I see. So do you think that the level of security will be impacted during the elections, like negatively or positively? Do you think that students would likely be possibly employed as thugs during the process?
I really don't think so because the students in did in this ASUU strike, they've been the most affected. Most affected, and even after being affected, we still do not have that remedy. Now look at the ASUU members. There's news that has been so rampant on air that very soon the ASUU strike will be called off. That the federal government and ASUU have reached a compromise. And then to that extent, I feel ASUU members, they've ventilated their anger, and there's a sense in which they're having some remedy. Now, part of the students, we have no remedy. So the ASUU strike shows to the extent to which Nigerian students are helpless and hapless. So to that extent, I feel we've learned in the hard way. I strongly believe that no sane reasoning Nigerian student would want to offer him or herself as a willing tool in the hands of desperate political players in the 2020 general election. So to that I feel just like POC May said, he said ambassadors of poverty are all of us whose actions and inactions reduce the people's expectation to nothing less because of what we should do which we never did. And so I believe that 2020 general election will be a watershed in the pathway to active youth and students participation in politics because we have been affected by the ASUU strike. You know what it means when the student has just 2 months to his graduation year and ASUU goes on strike? Yes, also for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months and still counting. It could be very, yeah, very, very good. So I strongly believe that no same reasoning Nigerian students will going to be used as a tool in the 2020 general election. Thank you.
Awesome. So no sane Nigerian students
Yes.
should allow themselves to be used as tools
Yes.
in 2023 general elections. You know, I've looked at over time, watching and seeing that. Do you think that this is going to cause a bias in the voting pattern?
Yes, definitely. There's going to be a bias. There's going to be a bias because there's a sense in which we look at, yes, the sense in which we look at the incumbents, party. I mean, there's when I mean the incumbent, I mean the progressive Congress. Yes, the progressive Congress. We look at it as, so this is a party that has failed us. This is a party that produced leaders that failed us. Because failed us in the sense that we expected, the leadership of the federal government to have been able to resolve this ASUU strike, earlier before now. But there's a sense in which we are expressing, just general election is going to be an expression of bottled up anger on the part of the students. Because no student is happy with his or her plights now. What I said earlier, so many of us have just 2 months to graduation. And then the ASUU strike came in, and we are here for more than 7 months. We've not been in classroom. We don't even know the hope of going back to classroom. So to that extent, I really feel that there's going to be a bias against the All Progressive Congress, because this is a party under which the leaders and other relevant stakeholders in the educational sector are right now. So because they failed to resolve this ASUU strike earlier before now, we are biased against that party. We are looking at more like a third force now, as a beacon of hope, for the Nigerian students.
Okay, so I'd like to take you up on that.
Alright.
I would prefer us not settling it on a particular political party. You know why? Because I feel that a lot of the politicians on this end of the party would one day crisscross to another end of the party. So it depends on the ideology of the person in leadership. That's what I see. So it's about who is this person that's presenting him or herself to be elected into any office, and not the platform through which they are coming in. Because the platform will always be there, but the people occupying that platform, the people who are going to be in this platform will change over time, because our political party system allows that you can crisscross to any of the political parties as at when you feel you should, or when you feel you can. So on that, do you feel that during the campaigns there's any particular thing that Nigerian students should look out for from these persons who are coming and saying that I want the number one office in the country, I want the number one office in the states, or in the local governments? What should we look out for?
Thank you for that brilliant question. Well, I am an ardent believer in the politics of patriotism as against the politics of patronage or partisan politics. And as far as 2020 general election is concerned, I'm firmly of the view that it's going to be determined by three factors. The first is the age of the candidates. The second is the antecedents of the candidates. And then the third is the trajectory of the candidates. So the Nigerian students should look out for, because personally, I feel any presidential aspirant who is older than this country should have no business coming for the presidency. I want to repeat myself. Any presidential aspirant who is older than Nigeria, Nigeria is 62 years old. Any presidential aspirant, be you in APC, be you in PDP, be you in the Labour Party, be you in any party, if you are older than this country, you have no business coming to rule this country. And so Nigerian students should look at who among these presidential aspirants, who among these presidential candidates is useful and useful. That's what we need. We need a person who is relatively useful. But it takes a great deal of strength, a great deal of mental, intellectual, that is product for you to be able to man, yes, for you to be able to man the number one position in this country. So the youths, mostly prefer. So the students will look out for the youth. And apart from that, the students will also be looking out for the antecedents of these persons. Every politician has an antecedent. So this is the time for us to look back at what they have done and then use it to determine where they will possibly when they come to power. So we look at their antecedents. Some of them have robust antecedents. So we should look at their past. So that we'll be able to now use it as a yardstick to speculate into what will become of the future of Nigeria in their hands. And then thirdly, we should look at their trajectory. As Nigerian students who are intellectually savvy, we should not be swayed by the usual political promises and all that they have to offer. We should look at people that have, feasible, practical and workable trajectory, manifesto. I don't know that will tell us that we are going to find snow in hell. No, we need people that will give us manifesto that this is really cool, this is relatively achievable. So to that extent, that's what I think that Justin should be looking out for. Not just the party as we said earlier, but we look at the antecedents of this person, their age, because age is very pivotal. Age is very pivotal. Of course, yes. One day, have some, you may in your mind, you may have some longings. But even if you have the longings, there's the age you get to, your strength will fail you. It's natural. Your strength will fail you. So age is very, very, very pertinent as we navigate into the 2020 general election. So lastly, I'm saying that the Nigerian students should look out for the age of the candidates, their antecedents, and then their trajectory. And not just the political party that they belong to. Because just as they said, I share with you that view. Yes, that's actually my view. Because the party does not sanctify the person. The party does not sanctify the person. And so they're all the same thing. Even though when we look at it from the angle from the legal angle, the political party is a legal person. But we're not looking at it when we say political party as a legal person, we are looking at that political party person. We're looking at the players. Because political party does not have hands, it does not have legs, it does not have hair. It is just the persons in that political party I'm talking about.
It's just the platform.
Yeah, just a platform. And so, just to answer your question briefly, the students will be looking at basically for the antecedents of these candidates, their age, and their trajectory.
But I'd like to take you up on this. For me, do you think that age has anything to do with experience? Because, like it is normally said that the older a person, the more experienced that person is. And experience comes to play most times in leadership. And it also depends on your willpower, your strength. Now, not physical strength, but your strength as it comes to your willpower, ability to use your authority in the proper sense of it. Now, do you think that age has anything to do with that?
Yes, age actually has a lot of things to do with that.
So do you say that a younger person is a better person or an older person is a better person to actually use their office in the right sense?
Good. Now, let me attune your mind to what erudite Pastor Tunde Bakari said during the APC primary election. He said that we don't need those who are experienced, because that is what has taken us to where we are today. We are strong. Nigeria has met all the indices of a failed nation because we have always considered, we have always giving preference, priority to, oh, this person is experienced, hey, this person is baba, he has this one experience. No, just as Bakari said, he said Nigeria needs a genius. That's what we need right now. Because our economy is redundant. We need a person, we need a genius, who is youthful, that will be able to revamp the economy. I'm not an experienced person who is intellectually redundant. That's what we need. So we are looking at somebody who is youthful. Because I said even though you have the willpower as a person, the mind longs for certain things. But there's age you get to, the strength will not be there. There are some persons, look at, let's make some comparative analysis of other world, other countries. You have people below 40 being president, being ministers, but in Nigeria we have
also do we have those who are above 60?
over.
So,
But if we're looking at the indices, you know that we have more of such old persons, gerontocrats in Nigerian politics. And that is why we are where we are today, because the strength is not there. It's just we need a person who can be able to at least to circumnavigate. I mean, someone can be able to seize us into the anatomy of the Nigerian economy, discuss it, brainstorm 2 hours, 1 hour on the state of the economy. Not a person who will just come and just tell you, recruit. I'm not trying to, mimic any person, but we need somebody who is intellectually savvy for us. Not just being intellectually savvy, somebody who is youthful.
one thing we must remember as Nigerians is that the number one seat of the president would not be the one that will take care of from the educational sector to the health sector or whatever sector in the Nigerian phase. It means that you need a team. If your team does not get it right as a leader, then automatically that leader fails. So I still will not settle for a matter of having age as a criteria, whether old or young. What I would go with, as you have said, is that the trajectory. What framework does this person have? How the now it is known, it is clear to the blind and heard by even the deaf about all that is happening in the Nigerian space. So we all know what is happening.
So let me quickly interject. Now when we talk about the head, the fish begins to rush from where? From the head. The fish begins to run from the head. That tells us that if the head is kept afresh, the other body, will be fine. So there's a sense in which the head must be, apart from having, teams that will help you in your daily administration. You see, the head needs to be very, very vibrant. The head needs to be very, very viable. The head needs to be healthy. And the head also needs to be intellectually, sound. Before I begin to talk about the parts. So you understand what I'm saying? So to that extent, we should be able to invest more in the head. Because if the head is bad, then invariably all other things that will come. Because you cannot expect, you cannot expect an apple fruit from an orange tree. You understand? So that is even why Adolf Hitler would say, give me the youth and I will give you the world. We cannot underestimate the vibrancy, the viability of youth in any position in any place in the world. And so, as far as the presidential election is concerned, we are heading for what I call the revolution of the ballot box. And the youths are taking up this revolution because there's a sense in which the older generation has failed this country. And we cannot continue in that same manner. The youth are taking up, want to ventilate our anger in respect of failed leadership. I'm going to ventilate that. Nigerian students are going to ventilate that on the ballot box, because we are gravitating towards a revolution of the ballot. It's not going to be violent. That's why I said earlier that no sane reasoning Nigerian student would want to offer himself as a willing tool in the hands of political desperados who are out on missions of vendors. And so, as far as the general election is concerned, the youths are taking over. That's to tell that there's just me they've been startled from political consciousness. They've been started from that their slumber into political consciousness. You bear witness that before now, the Nigerian youths and the students per se, we have been caught up under the web of the dark dungeons of political complacency. But as it stands now, they've risen. The Nigerian students have risen, Nigerian youths have risen from that dark dungeons of that complacency to the brighter side of active and non-violent participation in Nigerian politics.
Okay. So Nigerian youths are awoken
Yes,
to
yes.
active and vibrant political participation
Yes,
in the
exactly.
Nigerian political space.
Good.
Now, if we're looking at the campaign manifestos of the various political parties,
Yes.
what should we look at for as it concerns the Nigerian youth, both educationally and in all-round development?
Okay. I will speak particularly as a Nigerian student.
Okay.
The Nigerian students should look out for the presidential candidate who prioritizes education. A presidential candidate who prioritizes what? Education. Because in this country, it's very, very appalling that education is not a priority in Nigeria. Do you know that as poor, so to say, as poor as Niger Republic, if I will even give eight Niger Republic, but Niger Republic, it allots more of its annual budget to education, annual GDP to education than Nigeria does. Nigeria, allocates less than 2% of our annual of our gross domestic product to education. Less than 2%. Meanwhile, Niger Republic allocates 3%. I'm not going to, compare Nigeria, with other African countries who are doing very, very educational, like Kenya. Kenya contributes, over 23% of its annual budget to education. Is it Egypt? So Nigeria is very, very far. We've not prioritized education in this country, and that is why we have this recurrence of ASUU strike, because education is not a priority. Do you know what it means for one to rise in the educational sector to the point of being a professor? And as a professor, you are just paid peanuts. The level of thesis you do, the brain drain and everything. And at the end of the whole thing, you are paid peanuts. Most time, I feel for my lecturers, some of my lecturers, professors across faculties, who come to class, who come to school with their regulatory cars, and then you see a talk. I mean, they talk by in all ramification. Who goes on, good car, lives very well, and is an illiterate. And so the Nigerian, federal government has not prioritized education. Do you know that the United Nations benchmark for education, benchmark, when I say benchmark, I'm looking at what United Nations has stipulated as a benchmark for every state, for every nation to be able to allot to education. It is 15 to 20% of that state's annual budget. But since 1999 till date, Nigeria has not even been able to meet up to like 8%. We have not. So we dart from 4.5, 6.1 to meanwhile the United Nations benchmark is 15% to 20%. So education is not a priority. So to that extent, I'm saying that the Nigerian students should be looking out for a presidential candidate who has demonstrated, not in so many ways, but in effect, that he is committed to bettering the lot of the educational sector in Nigeria.
So it means that the Nigerian students need to look out for a presidential candidate
Yes.
who has the framework or mechanism put in place to actually better the lot of the Nigerian educational sector.
Good.
So thank you very much,
Thank you, blessing.
Honorable Israel. We greatly do appreciate you. I thank you, our viewers, for keeping time with us. So now, I'd like to find out from you, what are the last words for our viewers before we leave?
Before I say I give my last statement, I really want to appreciate my SCD president. On whose letter leave I am here to put up this appearance. The SCD president of the University of Benin, an intellectually savvy comrade, a cohesive, egg-headed, a catalytic executive president, Comrade Foster Amadi. He is the commander-in-chief of all the Aluta forces in the University of Benin. So I adopt my cap for him for giving me the privilege to be here on his behalf. So I want to thank you, especially my president. You know how much I love you for who you are. And then on my last word, I would want to urge Nigerian students, to rise to the occasion. Rise to the occasion by being active in the 2023 general election. Not being active as a top, not being active as a miscreant, but being active as an intellectual. Being active as not a pseudo intellectual, but as an intellectual. Because there's a sense in which we the artist strike has just shown that bad government does not discriminate between parties, does not discriminate between tribe, does not discriminate between the creed you profess. And that's why I'm very much happy in this popular movement, which is very rampant. I'm able to tell you the movement because the youth are rising beyond our ethnic and religious sentiment. And there's this particular candidate in the presidential race who appears to enjoy a trans-ethnic and inter-religious acceptability.
I'd like to stop you there because on the program we actually do not tell people
yes.
who to
I'm
support, but we're only putting frameworks in place
Good.
that will tell the Nigerian populace that
Yes.
this is what you need to look out for.
Definitely.
So if it's in the health sector, we want someone who would reduce the rate of maternal mortality.
Yes.
And then also reduce the rate of deaths across boards.
Good.
Give us very good roads, reduce security to insecurity, reduce insecurity to the barest minimum. And while doing all this, give us frameworks through which you are going to ascertain that this happens when you get into office.
So I'm not partisan. I'm not partisan. I'm just being patriotic. As I'm saying, I want to appreciate Nigerian students. And I want to beseech them the more that we need to get involved. Because Edmund Burke said, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. And so Nigerian students must rise at this moment because this is a period of national rebirth for Nigeria as a nation. And I do sincerely believe that with our commitment in this process, that national rebirth will not suffer what we call coitus interruptus. In other words, it's not going to suffer miscarriage. We're going to have a national rebirth in 2023, and Nigerian students must be at the front burner of the crusade for that national rebirth that is going to come out of that revolution of the ballot. The students should be involved, get involved. We must get involved. We cannot afford to be armchair critics. We just come online, criticize the government, and then we do nothing. We must get involved. So for the Nigerian students, I want to urge them, let's get involved in the politics of the time. When you are getting involved, I would also want to urge you equally. Do not play politics of partisanship. Do not play party politics. Let us begin to play politics of patriotism. Because the politics of patriotism is what will change this nation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Israel. So, viewers, you have heard it from Honorable Israel. We need to participate actively in politics, but not of partisanship, but of patriotism. And on this note, I'd like to encourage those of us who are yet to get our PVCs. The PVCs are ready. Please go to the INEC offices, the INEC headquarters in your local government areas. Please go there and get your PVC. Do not wait for the last minute rush where we have to queue, like as experienced in the last phase of the voter registration exercise. No, please. It is not time for the fire brigade approach. Now we should work systematically. Go to the INEC offices in the local government area across the nation. Request for your PVC and collect your PVC. And when you collect your PVC, please keep it safe. It is not a means of identification that you take about. Keep it safe, only to be used during the time of the election to cast your vote for your preferred candidates. Now, we thank you for your time and we hope to see you on another episode of The Citizen's Mind. I am Egon Blessing signing out. Have a lovely day.
The thing they do, yo. No matter how much money them they give you, no sell your photo. No need to fight, oh. Because their picking no go join you. They go, they won't corner, they laugh you. Oh, don't sell your photo. Yeah.
Okay. If you look at the situation, everything harsh for this our nation. Poverty rising and inflation. Line still day for the fuel station. Things gotta change, my determination. This election, no intimidation. Protect your selection, we gotta make sure everybody votes count for the future. For the future.
Shine your eye, well. Don't let anybody deceive you. Don't let them take your vote from you. Now your future be that. Yeah. Now your future be that.